What's up, Pirate fans? For those of you that don't know me, my name is David Smith, and I'll be a freshman at Seton Hall in the fall. I'm the youngest grandson of Richie Regan, so I've been a diehard fan my entire life. I currently serve on the board of the Seton Hall Pirates Facebook group, and I am honored to be here with the one and only JP Pelzman, writer for the Seton Hall Rivals premium page in Forbes. JP, we appreciate you taking a few minutes for Pirate Talk today and to get to know you and your story a little bit better.
Thank you, David. Great to be here.
So, JP, we know you write content as premium only for Rivals and Forbes, but can you tell us how you got to this point in your career and why Seton Hall Pirates basketball?
Well, David, I used to write for The Record of Bergen County. Before that I was with Newsday. I was in newspapers for about 30 years. Unfortunately, I was downsized. But I was fortunate enough to hook on with Rivals. As you mentioned, I also do freelance for Forbes.com, not for the magazine, but for the website. I write about sports business. And I write about the New York Jets mostly for Forbes.com. But I have covered Seton Hall basketball since the fall of 2002. I've only missed 1 year when I had nothing serious, but some medical issues. Unfortunately, it was the year when they made it to the NCAAs and won the only tournament game they've won under Kevin Willard. It was the year they beat North Carolina State in Wichita in the 8-9 game, and then put up a heck of a fight against Kansas in the second round. And who knows if they hadn't had that draw, who knows if they could have gotten to the Sweet 16 that year. But so I've seen a lot of teams, a lot of terrific Seton Hall teams, and I've really gotten to know the program pretty well. And it's amazing. The players I've seen come and go. It's quite a program, quite a lineage, heritage here, and I can't wait to see what the program does in the years to come. I'm really excited. I know it wasn't the year everyone hoped for, but I think people need to be patient, David. I mean, even the people like myself who cover the team, David, we can't even imagine what they went through this year just to give us a season. So I just think people need to understand this was a season unlike any other, just to have to be swabbed every day and to just the hoops they had to jump through just to play. So I think people need to be patient. I really think that good things are coming for this program, and everyone just needs to just hang in there and just, like I said, be patient. And this program is in a good place right now. I really believe that.
I completely agree with you. I mean, Seton Hall did have some returning talent this year, but they obviously had Powell, McKnight, Gill, three of the most talented players in program history. And they also had Bryce Aiken, who got hurt. So it wasn't going to be the easiest of years. And to make it as far as they did, I still think it's pretty impressive. It didn't end, obviously, the way we wanted it to, but they still played to probably their potential, if you're being real with yourself, considering the talent on that roster and all the other teams in the Big East.
Well, like you said, the thing is, David, we all said, everyone who was being honest said before the season, it remains healthy. And we really never got to see the true Bryce Aiken. We saw flashes, we saw bits and pieces, we saw what might have been, but we never saw sustained play from Bryce Aiken. We had seen the real Bryce Aiken. And you know what? Except for maybe one season, Harvard never saw the true Bryce Aiken. I mean, I feel bad for the young man. I don't think people should clobber him too much because, again, he didn't want to be hurt most of his career. It just didn't work out for whatever reason. He's just an injury-prone player, and it's nobody's fault. That's just his body. But if he had been healthy like a normal player, this is a tournament team. I don't think there's any question about that, but that was the caveat everyone had. And I hate to say it, it's almost, if he had broken down earlier, then maybe the season goes differently. Maybe then they have to get a Jahari Long ready. Maybe they're not saying, well, if he comes back. Maybe then they have to make a decision. But you kept kind of holding out hope. Okay, maybe they get him back for this game. Maybe they get him back. They did get him back for the Big East tournament. They didn't get him back. They got him back for the St. John's game. Excuse me. They got him back for the season finale, and he looked okay. And then, he's not back for the Big East tournament. It was always stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. So that's what happened.
Yeah, and Long was obviously very shaky in the beginning of the year, but the last two games he showed flashes and promised that he could be a starter down the line for the Pirates. So,
Exactly.
like you mentioned, you've covered other teams before in the past, like the Jets. So, can you tell us about what some of the benefits are of only covering a college basketball team, but maybe a smaller school like Seton Hall?
I just think until David, until the coronavirus hit, I think it was fun because you just felt like you were a little closer to the team. There weren't as many people. It wasn't a national thing. You felt like you were a little closer. You had more access. You felt a little more part of something that wasn't. It wasn't a pro thing where everyone wants a piece of them. You kind of felt like, you could get to know a Miles Powell a little bit. You would see him after a game and you could get right up to him and ask him stuff. And then just such a magnetic personality. And not that you ever know these guys. I mean, hey, there's always a part of them and it has to be in reserve. You understand that. But I mean, over the years, I got to talk to a lot of great Pirates, Andre Barrett, Jordan Theodore, Isaiah Whitehead. And although Isaiah Whitehead, I have to say, I felt badly for him, to be honest with you, David, because he never seemed, I don't know if anyone ever said this, he never seemed to have fun out there. It just seemed like it seemed like a job even when he was in school. And I felt badly for him, but wow, I mean, if he put that 2015-16 team on his back, I've never seen a performance like it. That team, without him, I don't know where that team would have been. And the 2017-18 team, again, I wasn't around, but I remember those players from the year before, and what a group of young men those were. And just to see them interacting with each other, and the 2018-19 team, and last year's team, like you said, I mean, just wonderful young men, and you just feel it's just fun to see them mature, to see them come in as freshmen, and the ones that stay. And at a school like Seton Hall, they usually do stay 4 years. Almost always they stay 4 years, except for Whitehead. And you see them coming as freshmen, and then you see them 4 years later. They really do leave as men, and you just see the change. You see how they grow and mature, and that's fun to see. And you don't get that in the pros. They come in as men. It's a much different process, and it's fun to watch. And it's a different, like I said, it's a much different thing.
As Pirates fans, I feel like a lot we've been thinking what could have been. I mean, Whitehead staying another year. I mean, the last year's tournament not getting canceled with the coronavirus. It's been very tough, but obviously life goes on. So in all the years you've covered the Pirates, it's probably very challenging to choose one. But can you tell us one story of a moment in time when you really felt grateful or maybe even privileged to be covering Seton Hall?
Well, that's a tough one. I mean, but I guess my favorite one was probably the first tournament game I covered that they won was 03-04. They beat Arizona. They were down in the second half. It was down in Raleigh, and then they unfortunately had to play Duke 2 days later in Raleigh. I mean, you talk about an impossible situation. But they came from way back in the second half to beat Arizona. And I just remember getting just staying around. I mean, I had to write a story, of course, and this was the days before the internet was big, but not as big as it is today. And there was no Twitter, so there was no social media. So you just really wanted to soak up the locker room as much as you could. And I remember even following guys to the exit, literally to the exit of the arena, following them out of the locker room, David, to the exit of the arena after they had chased us after the NCAA flags had chased us out of the locker room, and saying, you know what, I'm not done here, and following them to the exit following them through the hallways to the exit of the arena to get more stuff. And if I can give you a second one, and this might be tough for some people, but I'll be honest with you, is in a negative way, but it was poignant. I'll never forget 2 years later in North Carolina, they lost to Wichita State in the first round. And I spent an hour on the phone, on my cell phone with Louis Orr, and his job was hanging in the balance. And it got, very emotional for both of us because we both knew he probably wasn't good. It probably was his last game. And I felt bad. He felt bad. And we just, neither of us knew what to say, but some of it was on the record. A lot of it was off. And those were real moments. And you don't know what to say to somebody in a situation like that. And I really felt like, again, did he, was he perfect as a coach? No, he wasn't. But I kind of felt at that moment this was not the best move. And I think history proved it wasn't, because they thought they had somebody lined up and they didn't. And they wound up hiring Bobby Gonzalez. And we all know how that worked out. So unfortunately, but again, it's those moments that you remember. And when those are it's the human element that you remember. And I think that's what frustrates me, David, and other people, is that right now, and maybe someday we'll get back to it, is right now with Zoom, and I know we're on a Zoom right now, but you miss that. You don't get that right now because you're not interacting with people. Not that there's anything wrong with this, but it's not the same. It's not the same as looking someone in the eye and saying, when you're sitting right next to him and saying, hey, tell me how you're feeling. And the only reason we were on the phone call was because they had to leave very quickly, just because, the disappointment, they just wanted to get the heck out of there. But still, those were different moments and they were different times. And the program was in a different place then. But again, Kevin Willard, he's brought that, people talk about him taking different jobs or maybe looking at different jobs. I don't see it, because you know what? He's made Seton Hall into such a good job right now. It's so much better than a lot of the jobs that are out there. And that's because of Kevin Willard.
I completely agree with you. And to go back to what you said about Louis Orr, I mean, how happy you can't feel anything but happy for him because of his win in this tournament. To go along with Patrick Ewing as well. I mean, you can only feel great for them. I mean, they were picked very low in the Big East, and they came out on top, and they blew Creighton's doors open.
No, they deserved it. I mean, I believe what I tweeted the other day. I didn't think Seton Hall got a great whistle, but that's not why they lost. They lost because lost the other night because they didn't make free throws, they didn't make clutch plays, and that's not anyone's fault. That's how it happens sometimes. Sometimes you just don't make the plays. The ball doesn't bounce your way. It doesn't mean people are bad people. I mean, these guys. The one thing I'd say to the fans, those guys gave everything they had.
No doubt.
Doesn't mean that they're bad people. Doesn't mean they're bad players. I mean, I know that sounds cliche, but again, sometimes it doesn't work out. Again, I think that the sad thing is, and you referred to it, David, is we will never know what would have happened last year. I'm not saying they would have gone to the Final Four. I do know this. I think getting away from Newark, getting away from the Prudential Center, I think they put an inordinate amount of pressure on themselves last year at home, especially Miles Powell. They all wanted to put on a show for the home crowd. I think getting to Albany for the first 2 rounds and just getting away from the Rock would have helped that team. I would like to have seen what they could have done. Especially also, I think it would have been good to just get out of the East. I think it would have been good for them to go to Albany for the first 2 rounds, then get sent to, I think Houston had a regional, or even get sent west, just like the old days. Just get sent far away from the East. I mean, first 2 rounds at Albany, obviously, but then get sent somewhere far away.
That's honestly a very unique perspective, and I never really thought of it that way, but it's honestly very, very smart. So given your finger on the pulse for all things Seton Hall, can you give us a perspective about this season, what happened, and any thoughts on some of the social media cries to fire Willard?
Well, again, David, I just think they just they just couldn't make shots. I mean, it's just that simple. I mean, I just think they didn't have that as much as, yes, did Miles Powell sometimes take a few too many shots? Yes. But he also was that dominant figure late in games. And maybe they didn't quite have, as much of the killer instinct as last year's team. And that's not on anyone. If you don't have it, you don't have it. I mean, I mentioned covering the Jets. I mean, I remember late in his career with the Jets as a coach, Herm Edwards tried to be a tough guy. He tried to get tough, and he was a player's coach. If you don't have that in you, you can't do it, and you can't be someone you're not. But I do think I would like to see going forward. I don't know if Kevin Willard will do it. I would like to see more shooters on the team. I know he stresses defense like every coach, but I think they could use another 3-point shooter on the team. I know Conway, the point guard, he can shoot. And I know Dominguez Stevens, whom obviously didn't get off the bench this year, can shoot. But I would love to see a shooter come in via the grad transfer market. I don't know if one will or won't. But I also think mentally they were, and again, like I said before, David, none of us can know what it's like to be cooped up like they were, getting sick all the time for COVID, being away from your family, your girlfriends, what have you, just in that isolation. Different people react different ways. I mean, I do think they were mentally fatigued. And again, that's no one's fault. This had to be, I think in every sport, this has been the toughest season mentally of all time. And I think that was a thing. But I also think, like I said, just from a physical standpoint, as much as everyone stresses defense wins championships, I think Kevin Willard would be the first to tell you. And it started with that Marquette game on Valentine's Day. They didn't put the ball in the hoop enough. You have to score the ball to win. I'm sorry. You just have to.
No doubt about it. So, before we go, JP, anyone out there that wants to get access to your articles, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, like I said, if you want to read my Jets content, that's on Forbes' website, Forbes.com. You just search JP Pelzman, Forbes.com, and my premium content is always for Seton Hall is always on Rivals.com. And I'm going to be having pretty soon, a wrap-up story to wrap, just like I just did now, just wrap up this season and look ahead to next year. I'll be expanding on what I just talked about. But I think the future is bright. And I didn't answer your other question. I apologize, David. To me, firing Kevin Willard is just silly. I mean, who would take? I mean, first of all, I mean he's brought Seton Hall to a place where it hadn't been in a long time. I mean, he's done such a terrific job here. That's just who would. I mean, first of all, you would lose so many of these recruits just from a pragmatic standpoint. Secondly, he's done just a phenomenal job. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. And who would want to take a job when you fired a man who would have had 5 straight tournaments until this year? It just, again, I understand fans get upset in the heat of the moment. I get that. I mean, I understand why fans get upset, and again, could things have been done differently? Again, like I said, I would like to see another shooter or two, and would I like to have seen maybe some more playing time for Tyrese Samuel in that game the other night? Sure. Again, I'm not saying you can't ever question a move that a coach makes, but I mean, it's just absurd to say fire Kevin Willard. I mean, I think we're at the point now, David, and decide when Kevin Willard is.
Absolutely. I mean, Kevin Willard has done so much for this program.
And the school.
You made it. You put it perfect. I mean, no coach would want to come here if they saw that Willard made it 5 years in a row and then has one bad season and then he's out the door. No coach would take that job.
No.
So, well, on behalf of the SHU Pirates Basketball Baseball Group, many thanks to JP for bleeding blue and taking the time to speak with us today. Folks, if you're not a part of the community already, please join us, as the URL will be included down in the video. David Smith, this is JP Pelzman, and hazards at forward, everyone. Go Pirates.